This is a response to a lot of people that message me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, that have asked me multiple times, and I've just never had the chance to address it. They've seen me travel these countries, and they wanted to know how I was treated being black in Egypt. I'm actually Nigerian American if you want to be technical. In my family, I am the first generation born in America. So that means my entire family and heritage and lineage is all back in Nigeria. My story starts back 6 months ago. I chose to go to Egypt to start my travel content creator business, life, however you want to call it. I quit my job to follow my dreams, and I wanted to go to Egypt first. And when I got to Egypt, it was kind of like a reprogramming of what I thought I knew about Egypt. Because growing up in America, we are taught in the schools that being black is no more than having a enslaved ancestry. But once learning that, you kind of have this idea that you are nothing more, or African Americans in this country are nothing more than just enslaved prisoners to the old Americans that built that forced the Africans to build this country. When you learn about Egypt, you see the pyramids, and that's all it is. You see that there's desert, that's all they tell us. So going to Egypt was kind of like a reprogramming of what I wanted to know about Egypt and see for myself. And in my mind, the Egyptians are like me. They are in Africa. They are in Northern Africa. Are cousins to where my mother comes from, which is Nigeria. It's not that far away. But when I got there, it wasn't as expected as I thought of the welcoming I wanted. Let me say that there's two types of people in the world, or at least in tourism. There's the hustlers, and then there's the general public. So I'm not going to generalize the Egyptians for the hustlers and the general people that I met, because they're not the same people. But I want to say these hustlers definitely treated me differently than my white counterparts that I saw in Egypt. I meet some Egyptians on my travels. We try to have conversations of like where we're from, what are we doing, how is Egypt compared to what I learned growing up, and it's not what I thought it was. And when I talk to certain Egyptians, it comes down to how they identify themselves, because to my knowledge, like, Egypt is in Africa, and that's it. No matter how you want to look at it, Egypt is in Africa. If it's in the south, if it's in the north, if it's the west, the east, it's in Africa. It's part of the African continent. And there are some Egyptians that I've met that just don't identify as Africans. Like, there was a video that went viral in Egypt where there was this Egyptian kid, like a teenager, and he enslaved a Sudanese child in Egypt. And I was just like, what? And sometimes like I would talk to some Egyptians, and they say they're not Arab, right? But they say they're not African either. Then what are you? I don't know. There's a weird disconnect when we talk about Africans and Egyptians as if they're not the same. And let me just say that I've been in Egypt for a while, not just a tourist. I came for a week, went to the pyramids and dipped. Now, I actually went to Cairo, and I stayed in Cairo. I was in Sheikh Zayed, New Cairo, Maidi, which is my favorite place, and I was in Alexandria, I was in Siwa, I was in Luxor, and I was in the south, I was in Aswan, I stayed in Nubian village, I went to Abu Simbel, and then I went to the Sinai. I was in Sharm el Sheikh, Dahab, Nuweiba. I was all over the place. Even Fayoum, I was there. So I know what I'm talking about, and I'm not here to discredit anybody or anyone in Egypt. This is just, again, my experience, and I hope you guys can correlate to this, or you guys can connect with me on this. I want you to connect with me when I'm talking to you about this feeling that I got, this weird disconnect that I got in Egypt. How I'm feeling is like, growing up in America, I wasn't accepted as a black man, and then going to Egypt, we're not even brothers either. So it's like that love that I'm looking for in Egypt, I couldn't get it from those people. So it made me feel like I'm not even realm with them. I thought we were like cousins or brothers, but you look at me as something else. These conversations hurt me a lot. And it's funny, I talk about the hustlers. Whenever I'm in like the hustling area of business, then you will hear the Egyptian hustlers say brother, cousin, to kind of reel you in to buy things, and that hurts. They don't realize it hurts someone like me, but it hurts, to hear like you're only saying that because you want to profit from me, not that you want to engage with me. You don't want to bring me in as family. And then I meet some Egyptians that are like the ones that finish university or have a couple degrees or whatever. They're the ones that say, oh yeah, we're proud to be African. We are African 100%. And that's cool, but it's like, I can't say a percentage of all the Egyptians that I've met. It's just the ones that I've met. There's some that don't identify as African, and there's some that do. So it's like, when do you have the choice to identify as what? Like, I've never met anyone in any part of the world that just had a choice of not identifying where their mother continent is. Even some Egyptians taught me, like, if you want to disrespect an Egyptian, call him African, or call him a Sudanese. And I'm just like, I don't get that. Why? It's such a strange question when people ask you, what's it like being black in Egypt? And I'm just like, it's like, ask me what's it like being African in Africa. Like, I don't really quite get that question. I can only tell you what I've experienced, because even there's certain parts of Cairo where there's a melting pot of Nigerians, and they're in Nasser City. They're not really in the upper class areas like Maidi or New Cairo or Sheikh Zayed or areas like that. And I was never even attacked or anything. Like, this is nothing about physical damage. This is more emotional that I'm expressing to you. It's the emotional comfort that I wanted from my fellow Africans that I kind of didn't get from all of them. Just my close friends in Egypt I got, but it was a wake-up call. But I will say this, when I went to Aswan, I stayed in the Nubian village and I spoke with them, and they were telling me their history. They were saying they're not Egyptian, they are Nubian. They speak their own language, they make their own food, and they have their own land. And they have a history between the Egyptians and the Nubian people, where they were even mistreated, to where the Egyptians have all this land in Egypt, but they only gave the Nubian people this one part in the south. That's what they told me. And it's so confusing to me sometimes. It's like, I don't know what's what. Like, I thought they're all Egyptian. That they're not. The Nubian people in Aswan are not Egyptian. That's what they told me. And don't be mad at me, I'm just a messenger. But with every negative, there's a positive, and there's definitely some good sides to the story. I've made one of the best close relationships I've ever had in my life in Egypt. I've made really good friends in Egypt, and I hold them to my heart dearly. And I'm thinking of a couple people right now. One is Reham, and one is Alia, and another one is Mina. These are like my three closest Egyptian friends that I have in the entire world, and they are everything to me. And without these people, I wouldn't even be standing where I'm at right now. Reham is definitely like number one in my life. She taught me everything I needed to know about even content creation, how to voice myself, how to create content to sell people, and how to, place my footprint in the world. And she's not even a content creator, she just understands how this works. Alia is another friend of mine I met in Dahab, and me and her have a very close relationship as far as like what we want in the world. Free bird, free spirit, and I love her energy and everything. And Mina is someone I met in the States, but he was the first Egyptian I ever met. And it's so funny, when I met him, I didn't even know what Egyptians look like, and I thought he was Italian at first. And when he told me he was Egyptian, he was like, in fact, brother, I'm more African than you. I'll never forget that moment. Because that's what I want to hear, like, ever since then we became best friends. Like, he invited me to his wedding in Egypt, and I couldn't make it at the time. And then when I told him I'm going to Egypt to travel, I've been to places in Egypt he's never even been to, which is like something we can talk about now. I was like, I went to where he was born, and it's so crazy to talk about. I've had the best experience in my entire life in Egypt, the best. the best. Nothing can compare. And this is just aside from people, like the landscape is crazy, the history is crazy. That's all I want to say and talk about. I hope we can have a great discussion in the comments below. Let me know what your experience was when you went to Egypt, or if you're planning a trip to Egypt. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Don't forget to always like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Take it easy.